Hey, what is happening, guys? What's going on YouTube? And thank you for tuning into Rules for Rebels. Today we're going to be talking about Uber. I think, over the years, it's been interesting to kind of watch Uber. I think Uber has a fantastic business model. I remember a while back seeing a video with Gary Vee talking about Uber. And Gary Vee was saying, like, Uber is not a transportation company. Uber sells you time. And I thought that was a really interesting way of looking at it. I don't know if you guys remember, like, the days before Uber. I remember, like, when I turned 21 and was kind of into the whole, like, going out to the bars and stuff, Uber either it was around and I just didn't know about it because it wasn't, nearly as, I guess, widely known or widely used as it is today. Or maybe it wasn't even around. I forget exactly when Uber came about. But, taking taxi cabs was freaking terrible. They're never around, unless you're in like a populated, shopping or bar district or something like that. They're never around. You have to call for one. They might show up and pick you up 30 or 40 minutes later, maybe even an hour, and that's if they even show up to get you. The rides were incredibly expensive. There was Uber, you can catch a $3 ride, an $8 ride if it's not too far. Taxi cabs, man, I feel like even just across town or even just, home from kind of the corner bar, I feel like it'd be like a $30 ride, $38 ride. Like, taxi cabs were a horrible system. So Uber really, really kind of revolutionized things. And it's so true. Uber does sell you time. If I have to call for a taxi cab to come get me, that's probably like 30 minutes right there. Whereas there's almost always an Uber within like 3 minutes of me. So I just thought that was kind of an interesting way of looking at Uber. A couple things I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to talk about one thing, and I'll kind of get to this story and why I thought this was an interesting issue. But is an Uber driver an entrepreneur? That is question one, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that. Go ahead and drop a comment in the comment section below, and I'm going to touch on kind of why this discussion got came about. Also, Uber's been in the news a lot lately. Uber has, I was almost going to say ICO. Uber has an upcoming IPO. Uber has also been in the news for, as of like yesterday, I think it was, New York City sets the first of its kind minimum wage rate for Uber drivers. I know over the years Uber has caught some flack that, like, should their 1099 drivers actually be considered employees, and that's one thing with business. I notice a lot of companies, I think, try to treat people who really should be classified as employees as independent contractors, because then they don't have to pay the payroll taxes for them. They don't have to offer benefits. They don't have to pay minimum wage. There's a whole lot of things companies get out of doing by classifying potentially people who should be considered employees as 1099 contractors. Actually, a couple stories in the news. I kind of forgot about a couple of these. Also, Uber recently slashed driver rates, I believe, per mile by almost half. And I've been seeing online a lot of Uber drivers are really upset. I guess they, nothing really stings more. Like, if somebody's going to fuck you over, just fuck me over and admit you're fucking me over. But nothing's really more insulting than when somebody fucks you over and then tries to convince you that it's in your best interest or that it's good for you. And it seems like that's what a lot of Uber drivers are dealing with. I guess Uber is giving them like peanuts more per minute that they're in the car. But I guess you don't, I've never driven for Uber, but I guess you don't make money per minute nearly as much as you make per mile. And then also, I guess they're rolling out some kind of service called Uber Pro, where, certain drivers who are the top drivers, they don't decline rides, all this other stuff, they can get like a 3% bump in pay. And I guess Uber is touting this as, wow, it's better for drivers. You guys are going to earn more money. And if you go on Reddit or anywhere else, all the Uber drivers are like, don't fuck me over and then try to tell me that this is good for me or that this is better, because it's clearly not. Uber has also kind of along with the same story with the ICO. Uber has been going after a lot of Uber driving YouTubers. One kind of well-known one is a guy by the name of Your Personal Driver, and I guess they're telling him he can't use Uber's logos in his videos. They're telling him he has to take down all his referral codes, and just really kind of going after him for a number of things. And this gentleman here, this guy's name is Rideshare Revolution. For a rideshare channel, he's got a pretty decent following, and I've been following him for a while. He's actually been my Uber driver on 2 different occasions. And so, just meeting kind of a fellow YouTuber and someone kind of doing something interesting, I started following him and I follow his videos. So I somewhat kind of keep up with Uber driver news. But one thing you'll notice right here, I mean, this guy is a decent sized YouTuber. And he's got, you know, Uber partner code, Lyft partner code. You know, he's a clever guy. He's got a decent YouTube channel. He's doing affiliate marketing with Uber and Lyft. And he actually is one of the more transparent Uber drivers. He shows his earnings and everything else. And he actually earns about, if I'm not mistaken, I think about $550 a week just off of Uber partner signups. I forget how much he gets per signup. But it's really weird, you know, technically according to their terms of service, you're only supposed to share your rideshare code with like people you know in real life. A lot of programs try to do this. I know Tesla has started kind of a funny story. I'm getting a little bit off topic here, but Tesla actually went after the big, I can't think of his name, the big Tesla YouTuber, because he had earned himself 2 Tesla Roadsters off of referrals. And I guess they kind of cracked down on him and were like, hey, you know, you can only share these codes with people that you actually know. You can't just be like blasting this stuff on social media and YouTube videos. So the guy had a really kind of funny kind of fuck you to Tesla. What he did, he set up a website, and actually, you know, let me see if I can find it. Tesla referral code meet me Roadster. Yeah, I'm not going to try to find him right now, but long story short, he set up a website. You have to tell him one thing about you. Or you have to tell him one thing about you. He tells you something about him. You guys have now made an introduction. You know each other, and that was kind of his loophole or his workaround to continue getting Tesla Roadsters for all his referrals. So I thought that was really, really clever. But yeah, I mean, this dude's got his codes up here. He's earning good income off of it. And I think in the grand scheme of things, I think Uber is happy to have the referrals and the customers, especially when we see that Uber loses $1 billion in the run-up to the IPO as its booking slow. So I'm sure Uber could use all the riders and all the business that people can send their way. So it's kind of something where like they say it in terms of service to kind of be able to go after people who they're upset with later. And this guy, my personal driver, he was actually, and I kind of disagree with this, he does live in, actually, and I take that back, he's in California, so he's in a 2-party consent state, which means if you're going to record somebody's audio, you need to notify them. And it's actually a pretty, I think it's a felony if you actually violate that. There are some states that are 1-party consent states, so if I call you and I know I'm recording, I don't have to tell you. But California, where your personal driver lives, that is a 2-party consent state. So not only is he breaking the law, but also, you know, Uber riders who are catching a ride home after the bar. Actually, I should say probably no Uber riders want to be filmed against their will or without their knowledge. But especially people who are coming home from the bar, they're having maybe an inappropriate conversation in the back seat, or, you know, just a little bit inebriated and, you know, maybe not super cautious with their language, and all the while they're being recorded and this is being uploaded to YouTube. So I totally get why like Uber and Lyft are upset with my personal driver for doing that, but that's essentially why they've decided to go after him for things like using their logo and putting referral codes in videos, because you can see this dude here is doing it and making bank, and they don't seem to have a problem with it. So where were we? Oh, so here's where we were going with this. The other day I was watching a live stream from, I believe this gentleman's name is Geo, either Geo or Neo. And he has another buddy who's an Uber driver YouTuber, and they were in the car talking, and they were just kind of being silly, and his buddy was kind of reading girls' Tinder profiles. They were kind of talking about like online dating, and his buddy was on Tinder, and they were reading profiles and just kind of being kind of goofy. And all of a sudden, Neo, whatever his name is, looks over at his buddy, and he's like, "Do you have entrepreneur in your profile?" And that's kind of another funny story. So I heard some study recently that like entrepreneur is one of the most attractive professions. And it kind of talked about people putting entrepreneur in their dating profiles. And his buddy's an Uber driver, and he put entrepreneur, and so he was kind of cracking jokes at him, making fun of him. And his buddy was like, "Dude, you're an entrepreneur too." And so they kind of got into a debate over, is an entrepreneur an Uber driver, or is an Uber driver an entrepreneur? So I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about that issue. is an Uber driver an entrepreneur? And really, I guess you could extend that to, is anybody working in the gig economy an entrepreneur? Or are they freelancers? Is that kind of a different category? Generally, I don't like to get into these circle jerk discussions about who's an entrepreneur. Well, you're not an entrepreneur unless you have a payroll. You're not an entrepreneur unless you have an office. You're not an entrepreneur unless this or unless. Yeah, I don't really like getting into those. If you want to call yourself an entrepreneur, by all means, call yourself an entrepreneur. But just kind of for the sake of this discussion, I guess, what's your guys' take on an entrepreneur? And I suppose we could ask, is there a difference between being self-employed and being an entrepreneur? I think all entrepreneurs are self-employed, but I don't necessarily think all people who are self-employed are entrepreneurs. And then you could say, well, an Uber driver is kind of like a service business, right? And I would say, yeah, it kind of is. So is running, say, a landscaping business or a power washing business. But kind of the difference with doing gig economy things, especially things that are on a platform, whether it be Fiverr or Uber or Lyft or Rover. Rover is the one where you can it's like a gig economy site where you take care of people's dogs. If I'm running a landscaping company, I'm buying my own equipment, I'm doing my own marketing, I'm handling my own customer service, I'm doing my own billing. With something like Uber, even though you are a freelancer and I guess in a roundabout way you're kind of running your own business, at the end of the day, like, Uber has set up the platform for you. Uber takes the payment for you. If there's complaints, you're not really going to get the complaint. The complaint's going to go to Uber. So Uber kind of takes a lot of those, I guess what we could call entrepreneurial duties, off of the shoulders of the actual driver. And so I kind of think of Uber as being more gig economy or more freelancing than I do entrepreneurship, but where I would consider Neo or Geo, whatever this dude's name is, and he doesn't consider himself an entrepreneur. I would consider him an entrepreneur for the sole reason of him having the YouTube channel and doing affiliate marketing. He's obviously making some good money off affiliate marketing with the Uber and Lyft referral programs, as well as a few others. He's obviously making some money off YouTube, the YouTube Partner Program or AdSense. So for that reason, I would consider him an entrepreneur. I'm not going to say an Uber driver is or isn't an entrepreneur, but he's definitely an entrepreneur, if not for the Uber, and more so in my mind for the affiliate marketing and the YouTube channel. Essentially, in a way, he kind of has a media company. But yeah, I just kind of thought, I kind of wanted to talk about, I guess I kind of wanted to have a little debate over, is an Uber driver an entrepreneur? And then also Uber just keeps popping up in the news for, going after my personal driver and the upcoming ICO. And really the big news is the New York City sets the first of its kind minimum wage. That's kind of big business news. This could kind of set a precedent for other companies in the gig economy. Like, could more companies in the gig economy start being forced to consider their employees to be, or consider their freelancers, workers, whatever, to be employees as opposed to 1099 contractors? And could that also extend to things like what I think there's one called Task, where people do home repair, handyman type jobs for you, things like Rover. Like, this could set a precedent in business that is going to turn a lot of people who were previously 1099 employees into, or previously independent contractors into actual employees. I've never driven for Uber. My understanding of it has been that it's not really that great of an earning thing. I think maybe 3 to 5 years ago, there was probably some money in it. Like we say with everything, when companies are new and trying to make a name for themselves, they're very friendly and they kind of lure people in. And then over time, I talk about this a lot with like affiliate marketing. Over time, the affiliate, if a new company pops up, they set up an affiliate program. They're all about their affiliates. They have long cookie times. They have high payouts. And after the affiliates kind of help them to make their business a household name, and they're not as reliant on those affiliates anymore. Well, that 30-day cookie period is going to go to a week, and we're going to pay 15 per sign up instead of 20. And then another 6 months goes by, and it's like, what? We're gonna knock that 7-day long cookie down to a 24-hour cookie, and the affiliate commission is going to be $9.99 now. And then, a couple more months roll out and, it's going to be a session-based cookie and we're going to pay $3. And then, next thing you know, the affiliate program goes away altogether. So every new business starting out tends to be really good. And then as they kind of become part of our lives or become a household name or whatever else, they definitely become less friendly to customers as well as freelancers, affiliates, whoever else. Well, what's kind of interesting about this, I've been kind of following what like Uber drivers think about this. Some of them seem to love it. Some of them seem to hate it. One thing I think everybody has to keep in mind is, if there were times that you were driving for $6 an hour or even losing money after you take into consideration gas and mileage on your car and wear and tear and everything else, you're never going to have those downtimes where you're making $6 an hour. You're guaranteed the $17 an hour or whatever it is. But also, if this company is going to have to treat you as an employee and pay you like that, there's probably two negative things that are going to happen. The first is, if you're not having to ride out the downtimes, you're also not going to be able to take advantage of the uptime. So I guess there's periods called, actually, I guess I know as a rider, I've seen this surge thing happen. I remember a couple weeks ago, I was downtown shouldn't say downtown, but over on North Avenue by the Hollywood Grill. I don't know, 4:30 in the morning. They wanted to charge like $70 for a ride back to my buddy's house. And we waited about 10 minutes, and I think we wound up paying about $19 for the ride. So, they have these surge periods when they pay drivers more. So, if you're not going to have to ride out the downtimes, I think they're probably also not going to reward you for the uptimes, and you're probably going to be capped at that 17. They're not going to pay you $30 or $35 when things are good, but then also, essentially them eat the loss and pay you $17 when things aren't good. Another thing, one of the things that most people tout about Uber is that it's one of the freest jobs that you can have, right? Like, if you have a part-time job at the movie theater or Trader Joe's or Starbucks or whatever else, you can't just decide to, I feel like working for 45 minutes, I'm just going to show up to, right? It doesn't work that way. You have to be on the schedule. There's times you probably don't want to come in that you do have to come in. Uber is one of the few things where you can literally press a button on your phone, work for 20 minutes, and then say, fuck this, I'm done, and then stop working. And, you can choose to turn down some rides if you don't want to go that direction or for whatever other reason. And so I'm guessing if you're going to be treated more like an employee, I'm guessing you're not going to be able to turn down rides. Like, if we throw a ride at you, you better take it because you're no longer this free 1099 contractor. But I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts about this. Also, if any of you guys have ever driven for Uber before, I'd love to hear your experience in terms of, is it profitable? Is it not profitable? Any funny stories that you have to share? And then I guess while I got you guys here, I'll just kind of share this article with you as well. So let's see. Drivers for Uber, Lyft, and other ride-hailing companies will soon get a minimum wage in New York City. On Tuesday, the city's Taxi and Limousine Commission voted on a minimum pay formula to protect ride-hailing drivers from being underpaid by companies. Under the new policy, drivers will earn a minimum take-home wage of $17.22 per hour. That's the hailing equivalent of $15 minimum wage, accounting for the fact that those drivers have to pay payroll taxes and do not receive paid time off, the TLC said. The move, which will go into effect in 30 days, is expected to raise the average driver's pay by $9,600 per year, according to the proposal. The minimum pay floor is a first for the U.S. ride-hail industry and could mean rides in New York will get pricier. The formula takes into consideration time spent working beyond driving passengers, such as waiting for a dispatch or traveling to pick up a rider. It also provides some protection for ride-hailing drivers who are classified as contractors, ineligible for many benefits and rights that protect employees. New York City drivers will also earn a shared ride bonus set by the TLC for picking up and dropping off carpool riders. Other changes include a new out-of-town rate to pay drivers for time spent returning to New York City from a trip that took them outside its borders. New York City is on the forefront of regulatory changes that could provide a model for other cities in the near future. In August, the New York City Council approved a package of bills related to the issue, including the ability for TLC to set a minimum pay for ride-hail drivers. The push for regulatory change comes after reports that the uptick in ride-hailing services has sharply cut into drivers' earnings. At least 6 taxi drivers committed suicide in the first half of 2018. Critics of the proposal, I hate when you know, I don't think of Uber as being a super employee friendly company or super friendly to their drivers. But I think that's kind of shitty when media tries to put like these guys' suicides on Uber. Like who, God knows what these guys had going on in their lives, if they had mental illness, if their wives were cheating. Now, you know, to pin this on a lack of pay from Uber, I think is a little bit unfair. But moving on, critics of the proposal, including ride-hailing's biggest companies, say the mandate will make it harder and more expensive for passengers to get around. Uber's Director of Public Affairs, Jason Post, said in a statement, the TLC's implementation of the City Council's legislation to increase driver earnings will lead to higher than necessary fare increases for riders, while missing an opportunity to deal with congestion in Manhattan's central business district. Lyft also pushed back on the pay rules. Unfortunately, the TLC's pay rules will undermine competition by allowing certain companies to pay drivers lower wages and disincentivizes drivers from giving rides to and from areas outside of Manhattan. These rules would be a step backward for New Yorkers, and we urge the TLC to reconsider them, Lyft said in a statement. About 80,000 drivers in the city are affiliated with 4 ride-hailing companies, Juno, Lyft, Uber, and Via, according to a report commissioned by the Taxi and Limousine Commission and conducted by the New Schools Center for New York City Affairs. That number is up from 12,600 in 2015. New York City has about 14,000 taxi drivers. Today we brought desperately needed relief to 80,000 working families, Jim Caniglario Jr., founder of the Independent Drivers Guild, which advocates for rideshare drivers, said in a statement. All workers deserve the protection of a fair, livable wage, and we are proud to be setting a new bar for contractor workers in America. So, this is interesting, just because I'm sure you guys have all, at some point or another, taken an Uber. But also, this could really set a precedent for businesses even outside of Uber and Lyft. Like a lot of businesses, I guess for lack of a better word, take advantage of workers and consider people 1099 employees when they really should be considered regular employees, and it allows the business to not provide benefits. It takes a lot of protections away from workers. So it'll be interesting to see if this sets a precedent that carries over into other industries, and it'll also be interesting to see if this whole like minimum wage thing starts carrying over into other gig economy sites. So again, just to kind of recap anything that I guess the topics that we kind of discussed today, and feedback I'd like from you guys, or I'd love to hear you guys' opinions on, is first off, are Uber drivers entrepreneurs? We kind of discussed Gio, the Rideshare Revolution, and his buddy talking about that. Let me know what you guys think about that. Secondly, the Uber upcoming IPO, Uber going after your personal driver, and the New York City first of its kind minimum pay rate for Uber and Lyft drivers. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If so, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please hit that subscribe button below. And until next time, drop a comment as well while we're at it. And until next time, guys, Rules for Rebels. Peace out.